All right, welcome everybody. My first podcast for Balance the World with Dave Dettman. Today's guest, my first guest, is my little brother Andy Dettman. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
All right, thanks for doing this.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah, appreciate all the help too. You've been helping me practice, and very thankful. Learning how to do this is a little bit of a grind, and it takes somebody to actually, bounce ideas off of and help with the audio and video and make sure I'm doing it right. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, man. So how you been? What you been up to this week? Anything fun?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Taking care of kids, run kids and to and from sports,
Yeah.
school, work.
Yeah.
You
Full
know.
full-time dad stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Baseball starting soon, right?
Baseball is starting. Yeah. Kids are getting pumped.
Have they had any practices yet?
Leo has practiced twice. They found an indoor facility somewhere in town. So they've had three. They practice Sunday mornings. I think
Very
this
cool.
this will be the third or fourth Sunday.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Kids are
during the
getting
week, you've been paying attention into the news, or you try to shut it off and not pay attention anymore?
Yeah, I've been advised to do as little viewing of the news. I just have a hard time tuning things out. I really have a hard time not paying attention or being
Hmm.
apathetic to the craziness that's happening right now.
Yeah. The key is just to stay away from the computer and the TV as much as possible, huh?
Yeah, I've been reading.
Have
I've
you?
read a number of books, and the last 2 weeks I've gone through three or four books to kind of keep your mind off when you have a minute.
Like what?
But
What you read lately?
so I read the Other Birds, which was what I was talking to Heidi about. It's kind of a fictional
Hmm.
um, book that it kind of turned into one of my top five books of all time.
All right.
That was a good book, and then I read Foster, which is just a little novella that 100 pages that tells a little story about
Hmm.
Ireland. That was a
Right.
really good book. Um, yeah, so on to the other one. I've been reading the Dan Jones books. They're
Hmm.
a trilogy now, where it's books about the 1100s, 1200s, and all of the happenings of what was going on at that time.
Middle
Wars
Ages type
and
stuff.
yeah, so it's a lot of it's like the conflicts between England and France and that part of the world, Spain, and
Right.
just starting to get into
Right.
those. There's three of them.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Well, one of the things I'm doing with my show is just to kind of learn about everybody and let everybody talk about, some of the issues that they, care about the most. So one of the things that I want to learn from people is what really influences them and makes them pay attention the most. Like for me, my top five issues would be, protecting the planet and perfecting government as much as possible, and some non-religious issues and education, which education right now is a huge issue. And then for me, my fifth one is just, human overpopulation and, parenting and, trying to establish a balance with our planet, which is basically what my whole, book was about and what this podcast is going to be about. So, politically, what would you say are some of the more important issues to you?
Yeah, I think that all of those things. I think that the biggest issue in our political world right now is money.
Yeah.
Money in politics is just such a the Citizens United. It's just it turned. When you look at what happened right now with Elon Musk,
Hmm.
whatever side you are on that argument, which is in my mind absolutely insane that somebody that's not elected has that kind of power. But you
Hmm.
look at what he did in the cycle, the election cycle, where he brought in what I think it was $277 million into the
Hmm.
Trump campaign, and look
Hmm.
what it's bought him.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
an incredibly dangerous precedent to set, where it's turned into what it is. You look at people in
Hmm.
charge right now of
Hmm.
many sectors of our lives, and it's nobody
Right.
but trillionaires, soon to be
Hmm.
trillionaires.
Yeah.
So, especially in you talk about the news this week,
Hmm.
where you start hearing about judges being afraid for their lives and their safety,
Hmm.
and the calling for impeachment of judges based on they're doing their job. They're
Right.
and none of the cases that have been brought have flat out said you can't do this. We're just putting it on hold. We're give
Hmm.
everybody a chance to kind of see what's what. And when you start calling for, and this is nothing new for the Trump world, violence against
Hmm.
people that they don't agree with. That's nothing new.
Right.
But it's turned into, Musk, I think he donated, or he came out and said that he's going to give $100 million of donations to, politicians that are coming out and speaking about in favor of impeaching
Hmm.
judges of their views. And
Local campaigns and state
yeah,
campaigns and
and it's, I
yeah,
mean,
the
like
down ballots.
us being in Illinois, money in politics is
Hmm.
nothing new. The last
Hmm.
two governors we've had are total opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're
Right.
both, incredibly wealthy, multi-hundred millionaires or billionaires,
Hmm.
that,
You're not
that are
supposed to be able to buy
not
politicians
supposed
like
to be
that.
able to do it. You're not supposed to. It's
No,
the only country that's happened.
no. Right. One
So,
person, one vote.
yeah, that's right. And, it's never been more evident that it's dangerous.
It's
You know,
blatant right now.
yeah, where the money in politics is just so
Sad.
unfettered, and
Yeah.
it's starting to be visible, the effects where
Hmm.
people that have nothing but money to bring to the table are
Hmm.
suddenly making decisions that are affecting everybody in the country, and that's a really dangerous precedent to set.
Right. Right. You see what Bernie's been doing lately? You know me, I'm a Bernie fan, so
Sure, yeah,
him and he's out on the campaign ranting and raving again. And part of me is happy to see him out there again, but part of me is just so disappointed that it's just a little too late. He's a little too old to ever run again.
yeah. We need
To me, he
a zero
didn't
Bernie.
fight hard enough. Yeah, didn't fight hard enough when they were, hammering him. And but it just we need some more people like him. It's kind of one of the things I've been saying is, where are the rest of the Bernie Sanders? Are there any more people like him, or is he just one of a kind? And
Yeah,
I certainly hope not. And which goes along with I've been saying lately, where are the good billionaires? I mean, are they all just bad, greedy, want more money billionaires? I mean, where are the good philanthropists and the people that are want to fight what's going on? Where are
yeah.
those people at?
I think that those people are more interested in actually accomplishing things, and not that they couldn't accomplish things if they got into politics. But I mean, you look at the scenario with Bill Gates.
Hmm.
I mean, he does some political things, but he's making his money work.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think he kind of tries to stay clear of that, that world. But,
Hmm.
I mean, there are conspiracy theorists out there that, think Bill Gates
Hmm.
is some
It,
monster that's putting chips into us. But,
yeah. Yeah.
he's
It's a dangerous
all the
thing
problem.
for rich people to get into politics because, I mean, as much as I don't really like him right now, like Elon Musk, I mean,
Yeah,
he could have just kept his mouth shut and he'd be a damn near trillionaire by now. But now
yeah,
that he's pissed half the country off, now look at, what's happened to him in the last couple of weeks.
yeah.
So I
And
think
it's
a
not
lot of
just,
people don't want to do that.
yeah. And I think that there are not just people, but corporations. You see it all the
Hmm.
boycotts,
Hmm.
Walmart, Target, and all these companies that are rolling back DEI initiatives
Hmm.
and the FAOF, what is it? The FAFO, the
I can't remember which
the
one.
mess around and find out, that
Yeah.
scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right.
They're finding out how dangerous it is to get
Hmm.
themselves put
Hmm.
their either their personal wealth or the corporations into that limelight where the
Hmm.
country is so divided that I know we have, and I know a number of people have stopped shopping at those places.
Hmm.
We won't spend
Oh
money at.
yeah.
I mean, that's Target is one of the places that we spent
Hmm.
a lot of our money buying, just
Hmm.
necessities, to these places to go in and get groceries and a little bit of everything. We don't go
Why
there
so
anymore.
many people try to avoid politics because, you're always going to, make the other half of the country mad.
Yeah,
So when they say don't talk about politics and religion, this is kind of a good example why.
yeah,
Which leads me to another issue that, I've been doing a video on is, where are all the good politicians? The good, smart, brightest people coming out of college. A lot of them want to go to the private sector and make money and don't want
yeah,
nothing to do with being a public servant. And to an extent, you can't blame them. Which
yeah,
for me, one of my fixes is we need to be paying our politicians better. Which so many people are like, they should be working for free. Yeah, well, that's why they're greedy and corrupt because we're not paying them well enough.
Yeah,
So what do we do to get those best and brightest out of college to be public servants and not go to Wall Street?
yeah. And I think that there are different ways to be public servants. I think that there are a lot of those people you're talking about, the intellectuals and the people that, are able to make, there's so many people in politics that aren't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
There are so
Yeah.
many people that don't understand the process. I mean, Trump, I mean,
Hmm.
he's a rabble rouser. That's the only reason he doesn't have any. You look at him sign these executive orders, dude, and he has no guarantee. I guarantee he has no idea what's in them or the
Right,
consequences
right,
from them.
right. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, this is a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah. Oh, what is this one? And he has, stooges in the background, pointing out what they are. And to me, that's the dangerous part is to get somebody, and that's where money comes in, is that
Yeah,
money seems to be able to buy this scenario. And everybody
right,
has their own ideas on Barack Obama, and I am a true believer, a huge fan of him and his abilities. And it's always been that conversation where the divide in intelligence, maybe that might be a little harsh between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party as far as nominations go. I mean,
right,
if you look at the number of the last people nominated in the two parties, the intellectual abilities is vastly different. In
right.
my opinion, you cannot
Oh, yeah,
possibly compare the intellectual abilities and the ability to comprehend a Rhodes Scholar, smart professor who taught constitutional law against
hmm,
somebody who's made his billions of dollars bankrupting companies.
right,
I mean,
right.
the Trump, whatever he touched, seemingly turned into crap.
Yeah,
The only thing that's
yeah,
worth anything right now is his name. He
yeah,
slaps his name
hmm,
on a building or whatever. He doesn't
hmm,
buy those buildings. He's not really doing
right,
anything.
right.
But just the Trump
Yeah,
name around the world has been able to make him.
yeah. Trump is also one of my next videos. I try not to talk about him too much because I get so pissed off. So I'm making one video and then I want to drop it, and just leave it alone and just say what I like about him, what I don't like about him, why I think he won, and the lessons we can learn from it. But that guy, like one thing that I'll give him credit for is that he's hustled. I mean, he's busted his ass, as far as worked hard anymore, put the hours in. But when you're given that much of a head start and when you've got lawyers to protect you, you can say whatever you want. And that's pretty much what he does is that I call him, a big con man and bullshit artist, and he doesn't stop. He keeps on going. He keeps trying. And the one thing about, these last 4 years, hey, he didn't give up. And people will say, he kept fighting for us and he was fighting the courtroom battles and all that. And I was like, he is not fighting for you. He is fighting to stay out of jail.
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah,
I try to look at both sides to it as much as possible, but it's not easy with that guy.
that's for sure. That the just the disengagement, just completely
Hmm.
unengaged, and
Yeah.
it was, and I think that's a good point. That over the last, that I think the big part of why he did run was because he was trying to keep himself out of jail, and
Right.
all of a
Right.
sudden he comes in, yeah, he comes into the power again, and
Yeah. Pretty
lawsuits are
easy to
taken
stay
away.
motivated when your choices are prison or the White House.
Right.
Prison or the White House. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll keep you motivated.
Yeah.
That'll keep you trying.
Right.
He's fighting for us. He's one of us.
Yeah.
But that's another thing I'll give him a little bit of credit for is that he is the people's microphone. When he was running his campaign, he basically, he'd say something at a rally and, people would cheer and he'd write that down. We'll say it again tomorrow, and then anything they didn't like, we'll leave that out for tomorrow. And he just perfected his speeches to the point where it just made everybody cheer,
Yeah.
you know,
The
but at
sad part
least he's
about it is,
speaking for the people.
but I mean, like part of that, I get that, and I think that he's lost the number of people that voted for him. You see it all the time on these news um, casts, and where they go in and talk to teachers in the South that have voted for him,
Mhm.
and now they're like, "What have I done?"
Regretting it,
Yeah, and that's
buyer's remorse.
I think there's a huge amount of buyer's remorse, and I hate talking about polls and numbers and those kind of things. But you know, you look at polls right now, he's not doing so great. And but he
No.
doesn't have to do anything
Mm-hmm.
else. He's done. You know, what
Mm-hmm.
does he care about a poll? He's not going
Mm-hmm.
to 4 years. So
All right. Gonna be an interesting 4 years, that's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be a scary
Yeah.
4 years. And I
What?
really hope that the judiciary continues to pump the brakes,
Yeah.
kind of bring
Yeah.
some sense back into this
Yeah.
Congress. Doesn't seem like they're going
Yeah.
to be there.
I want to see some people standing up to the guy. I
Yeah,
mean, for crying out loud, he's got so many bootlickers around him that are afraid to say anything. I
yep.
mean, for crying out loud, stand up to this guy. But everybody's afraid those lawsuits are coming after him, and which I mean, you don't blame him. You don't want nothing to do with that. He's dude's the
The
president of the United States. He's the most powerful man on the planet.
Park talked about
So.
that divide where the
Hmm.
last 10 years, those sensible center conscious, people-minded legislators left. They left.
Hmm.
I can't
Yeah.
do it anymore. That the madness is too much. There's
Hmm.
nothing getting done. I mean, like right now, you look at Congress, they're not doing anything.
Hmm.
Passing
Nope.
continued regulations, passing the buck on, future spending and all that stuff, but it's completely divided. There's no, center. And I'm not one to say that I am always for the center and compromise, but there are times where that's what the country needs right now. It needs
Hmm.
sensible people stepping back and saying, no, you can't do this. You cannot, close the Department of Education without Congress's
Right.
approval.
Right.
And
Right. I
those
don't
things,
like how he's making all the countries all over the world mad at him right now. It's like, dude, are you
it's like
trying to alienate us? Our
literally
only friend's
everybody.
going to be Russia.
Yeah,
Russia's our only friend
that's
left.
exactly who we want on our side. Well, don't forget North Korea. They might bring North Korea on. Get Canada.
Right.
Yeah,
That
that's what
dude
I'm saying. Like
just.
it's the money and the influence of it used to be such a privileged thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's seemingly the degree I have in studying the things I did in school, it was in the last 10 years. I mean, I used to be a political person where, like I actually studied it in school and, read about it,
Mm-hmm.
we just talked about the books I've been reading and none of them were political. None of them were based on, they
Mm-hmm.
have, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
It, 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 it just has changed so much in the last 10 and 15 years where
Mm-hmm.
it's, the person that can yell the loudest and not the person that can do the most. And that's
Right.
an incredibly sad
Right.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Trump, you call him the great divider. He is definitely, divided the hell out of the country. And,
Yeah.
my last video, I called America the divided. We haven't been this divided since at least the civil rights movement or the Civil War.
Yeah.
And it's getting back to, really just hating the other side and hating the other team. And I think a lot of that has to do with media, and even the podcast. That's one of the motivations for me for doing this is
Yeah.
to get in and try as hard as we can to see both sides of point of view. Because right now, I'm a YouTube junkie, and when I watch, some of the Republicans and how mean their podcasts are, podcasts are ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they are so brutal and just ranting and yelling. And every time I watch them, I try to remind myself that as bad a temper as that I have, is to just try to remember that as soon as you start ranting and getting all pissed off, people turn the channel, click away, and stop watching you. But also watching like even the Democratic, shows. A lot of times I'm like, wait a minute, man, don't forget to point the finger back at your own party. It's not always just the other side's fault. So many people will protect their own party at all costs. They'll forget that, oh, wait a minute, there's goods and bads to both, or especially bads to your own party that just get swept under the rug and not talked about on the news. And I think that's
Yeah.
wrong. So that's
Yeah.
one thing that I'm really trying to do with this show and the way that I do it, and the whole concept of the word balance is to, what do we do to unite people? What do we do to get people to get along again? So that's actually one of my questions for you. Is it, I mean, do you have any ideas on how we can get along and, you know, uh, as we move towards these next 4 years, you know?
Well, I think that the first thing to do is to restore the three branches of government.
Yeah.
where it's gotten to the point now where executive orders is the only way to get things done, and that's not how it was intended to work. I
Right.
mean, like right now,
Right.
they came in guns blazing and canceling all these grants and everything that had been appropriated. Congress has
Hmm.
already given their approval to spend these funds,
Right.
and nobody's standing up and saying, "Hey, this was part of the deal we made. This is supposed to
Hmm.
happen." And as somebody who works in nonprofits their entire adult life, that's where a lot of our money comes from.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
grants from the government, and Republicans are always talking about pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, and here they are. These programs are how these could be. These groups do it.
Hmm.
Working around. I spent time in homeless shelters and trying to work with local places to get them to hire people into jobs and housing and getting them off the street. And it's like, well, yeah, they should be able to at least be some part of getting themselves out of the scenario. But
Right.
the other part is that people need help,
Yeah.
intellectual and their abilities from birth. We both were raised into a middle class family that taught us about hard work and doing what's right, and had both parents in the house, and mom
Hmm.
looked after us while dad was out busting his butt making a living, and they taught us
Hmm.
how to do things correctly and how to treat people, and the day-to-day things, how to be an adult. I
Hmm.
mean, they emphasized the idea of an education,
Right.
and not everybody has that. Not
Mm-mm.
everybody has that, and some
Mm-mm.
people need a little bit of help. And
Right.
in my personal opinion, that's the entirety of a government's responsibility, is to care for its
Hmm.
people and give them
Right.
a chance.
Right.
They complain about
Yeah.
welfare and all these programs, social safety network, and the cost of it. And it's like, well, if you would just focus on it,
Hmm.
give these people opportunity to make them, it's so
Hmm.
frustrating that,
Right.
you can't have both ways.
Right.
People are going to need help.
Yeah. Well, one of my counters to that, in bringing up that some of the things that I agree with Republicans on, is that I'm totally agree with you about giving people help, or the old metaphor of an underdog when you're on the swing set or whatever, just a little bit of a push. But also the flip side of that is people, poor people or people that need help need to meet halfway and earn it and deserve the help. And because a lot of people don't, there's some people out there that just expect a handout and don't do their part, don't even try, whether it's not trying to work hard or be a good citizen and follow the laws and rules of society. So I bring that up because I think one difference between me and you politically is that you're nicer than I am. You like people more than me. Something I will flat out admit. And that is one of the reasons why, is because I look, at a lot of people in the world, and they're not even trying to be good citizens. They're not even trying to be good people. So in my last video that I just made, why should rich people or taxpayers want to help people that they either don't like or aren't trying to meet halfway and be good citizens?
That and those, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody should be, taken care of to the full extent, but those people you're talking about are people that are leading this country. Donald Trump isn't a good person. Full
Oh, I
stop.
agree.
Not a
Yeah,
good
oh, yeah,
person.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
not a good,
Yeah.
citizen. And we talk
Mhm.
about paying their fair share. Never paid his fair share of taxes, being a millionaire,
Mhm.
billionaire, and those people are not just poor people. I
Right.
just want to make that very clear that those people that get put into that idea that oh, they're not helping, they're not contributing to society, they're not all poor. They're not all poor.
Mhm. Right.
There's somebody middle
Right. And
class
that's a
that
fair thing to say.
I mean, and that's part of the thing that gets lost in the conversation, is that everybody on welfare is this, slumming, trying to just get a free pass. That's not the case. Somebody who's working
Mhm.
in scenarios where all of those, people from different sectors, different colors, different religions, different everything, sometimes
Mhm.
they just need help.
Sure.
Somebody that when I was at the homeless shelter, half of the people that came in were just people that had just gotten divorced.
Mhm.
They didn't have a drug problem. They weren't this. They weren't
Mhm.
that. They got thrown out of a house because they
They're
got
just
divorced.
wiped out. They're wiped out
Some of
financially.
them are
Yeah.
people that have an
Mhm.
addiction problem and alcohol
Mhm.
abuse. And those are things that
Mhm.
we are able to do something about. Full
Yeah.
stop. And they're
Yeah.
not people. They're just people that need help. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you'll hear it all the time that, the cost of the welfare program and people taking advantage, it's proven to be such a
Mm.
small number
Right.
of people that are actually milking the system.
Right.
And to say blanket overall that it's
Mm-hmm.
not worth it to do
Yeah.
because there are a few bad apples. Well, there are bad
Yeah.
apples in every sector of the world, and every
Yeah.
sector of life,
Yeah.
and every
Yeah.
economic situation and
Yeah.
home situation.
Yeah.
It just drives me crazy when that
Yeah.
part of the conversation is being driven in one way, thinking that all the people on the bottom are milking the system and they're bad
Mm-hmm.
people. Not true.
Right.
It's
Well,
fundamentally actually not.
one of the fun things that I like to do with conversations like this is I'm a big percentage guy. I love percents and pie charts. So let me ask you that follow-up question. What percentage of people that need help are trying versus not trying? Just like a quick percentage.
If I had to give off the top of my head the number of people that are actually out there working hard, trying to change, getting themselves into an addiction or rehab scenario where they're, actively trying to change their lives so that they can get a job and into, permanent housing, I would put the percentage at 80,
Okay.
80% of
Like an
those
80
people.
20,
And
like
I
an
would
80
put it,
20.
I wouldn't even put the 20% in the bottom portion where they're just flat out not trying.
Mm.
I would put that scenario, I would that
Mhm.
somewhere in the 5%, 10%, where
Yeah.
the people that are just out there scamming,
Yeah.
not trying, just living
Yeah.
off the check from month to month.
Yeah. Well,
And
and see
even if
that,
they are, there's so many people that get lost in that scenario. Say a parent of five, four
mhm.
is not doing the right thing. That doesn't mean that their four kids should be punished for it.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
such a deeper conversation than the one that's being had.
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
it drives me crazy when the conversation is steered by people that have that mentality where they came from a
Mhm.
privileged scenario,
Right.
two parents in the household, all of those things that, they were middle class, they never had to work, until they were, well, they didn't have to work to support the
Mhm.
house, keep the
Right.
lights on. I mean,
Right.
and
Right.
there are people that do that. 16
Yeah.
years old working at McDonald's
Yeah.
just trying to keep their, family out of
Mhm.
homelessness.
Yeah.
And those
And
people are,
inflation has killed things, man.
I mean, like, it just drives me crazy when the conversation is built around the fact that poor people have
Mhm.
problems.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
because like you said, the flip side, like you said, with the balance, you always got to look at the flip side. Look at how many rich people are getting, corporate subsidies, and look how much Elon Musk is getting help from the government with his contracts.
yeah,
And so welfare goes up too.
yeah.
And people don't remember that that's usually way bigger money too. Those are way
Yeah.
bigger dollars.
And I don't have
So.
a problem with those scenarios, like Tesla and all these companies that he had a really good mind to make. I don't have a problem with that being done.
Hmm.
Economic development and grants from the government do help
Mm.
small, medium, large corporations get to where they want to go. My problem is that when you get to the top and you start, ranting and raving about the poor and how the government doesn't do anything, you just made all your money with the government's help.
Hmm.
How can you sleep at night out there
Right.
making that case?
Right.
It's like it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's part of the media that and that's why I don't watch news. I don't watch
Hmm.
news. Anything I get news wise, I read. And
It's
it's because of the
infuriating
people that are,
sometimes.
dude, and everybody you're watching on the news is making millions of dollars
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
billionaire corporations headed by billionaire people. I
Right.
mean, if you look at the Fox News and you hear conversations like that all the time about how Fox News or just news commentators in general are different people off the camera.
Right.
They're not the
Right.
monsters that you see on the camera. It's because they're getting paid $25
That's right.
million to say whatever they want. They don't have a conscience.
That's right.
They're not
That's
terrible
right.
people. They're
Yeah.
just not interested in solving the problem or, coming up
Hmm.
with, they point fingers.
That,
This is
that's why
this.
the media is one of the biggest fixes that needs to be focused on, because media is adult continuing education. It's how adults get their information and their education. And, that cliche about the idiot box, don't believe everything you see on TV, is, now translated over to the internet now, but, it's the same thing, and that's how people learn. That's how people stay informed. And whenever people, like you were talking about with the what was it, Ted Koppel
Yeah,
interview last time we talked, that
right,
they're so good at what they do. It's
yeah,
just they're very, very good at influencing and riling them up and pissing them off. One of my favorite memes out there is the one where the Donald Trump is the match and the audience are the bombs with the fuses waiting to be lit.
yeah,
That's so true that it is all it takes is one spark, and you've got these people so pissed off and riled up and believe in everything you said,
yeah,
which is so important to see the other side's point of view. So you realize, oh, all right, this guy's just nothing but a propaganda machine.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
And then the couple stories in the news the last couple of years, or last couple of months, where Jeff Bezos on Washington Post has stopped their commentary. They're stopped
mm-hmm,
printing opinion
mm-hmm,
pieces.
mm-hmm, yeah,
How dangerous is
yeah,
that?
yeah,
If it goes against
yeah,
Donald Trump, I'm not printing it. And that's the whole
right,
idea of free press, and that's why I
mm-hmm,
don't read any of those. I try to get my news from the AP,
mm-hmm,
and I read some of the New York Times, which is slanted to the left, but a lot of their people are really smart
mm-hmm,
and they do their homework.
mm-hmm. Well, like
And
the inauguration,
bias.
I'll give Trump credit for being smart enough to, to go after um all of the media people, all the rich media people that were at his inauguration. He's basically recruiting, Twitter, Facebook, the Washington Post, everybody, all these owners, Google, they were all there.
States.
And so it just goes to show that, I mean, are we turning into V for Vendetta where, the government is controlling everything that's being, said over the airwaves?
Oligarchy, where I mean,
Yeah.
2 years ago, even maybe 5 years ago, we start throwing that term around like, oh yeah, 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 whatever, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
capitalism, blah 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 blah. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, holy crap!
Mm-hmm.
All these billionaire, trillion-dollar companies are the ones sitting at
Mm-hmm.
the table, and
Yeah.
most of them don't care about us and our problems. And
No,
how
no.
do you regulate that? I don't know. I don't claim to be an expert in that scenario, but
Mm-hmm.
we see it. It's happening,
Yeah.
and it's got to be fixed, or else that I think that finally people are starting to take notice of the fact that there is an incredible wealth gap in this country, and it's only getting wider.
Right.
COVID,
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
COVID, that
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
it emphasized, and part of it is that's the problem, is that, like, I'm caught between that idea of socialism and capitalism, where I don't dislike that. I don't think that. I think that if
Mm-hmm.
somebody puts out a product, they should be able to make what they make, but they should be forced to
Mm-hmm.
pay their fair share. The
Yeah.
corporate tax rate
Yeah.
is, what is it, 25? I think they're trying to cut it down like 15 or 20% right now.
Mm-hmm.
It should be 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
includes people that run it. Jeff
Yep.
Bezos, those guys, I mean, I'd be really surprised if they pay any taxes. And I'd be really
Mm-hmm.
surprised if any of them pay their fair share. Except for
Mm-hmm.
Warren Buffett. He always makes a point
Yeah.
that he sits
Yeah.
down and check Uncle Sam every year for
Yeah.
billions of dollars, because that's what they owe, and that's the only way it's going to work, is if people pay their
Yeah.
fair.
Well, and the my big argument for that is I agree. I don't, believe in socialism, but again, it goes back to the balance. We're already a balance between socialism and capitalism. So I hate it when they force feed you the socialism is horrible. Yeah, 100% socialism is horrible. That's
Yeah,
why we're already at 25% socialism, 75% capitalism, whatever the percentages might be. But it just depends on swinging that fulcrum of how much more socialism and government programs do we need versus, less. But again, how much do rich people need? Once you get past so much money, everything's paid for. It's like, Elon Musk. It's like, how much money do you need? It's not about money anymore. It's about his legacy and competing against the other people. I think the one of the things about rich people is it's not really even about money anymore. It's about competing against everybody else. Oh, this guy's got 100 million. Well, I want
yeah,
200 million.
yeah.
The keeping up with the Joneses is way worse for rich people than it is for poor people.
The
So to
Manly
me,
Joe.
I believe in glass ceiling laws. Once you get to be a billionaire, everything else goes back into society.
Yeah,
Well, that's not fair. I earned it. No, you didn't earn it. Your employees did. one
Yeah.
of the things I get really pissed about is when people say he's a self-made millionaire, like Jeff Bezos, for example. Yes, he deserves to be a billionaire. He deserves to be rich, but once you get the business started, your employees are doing all the work, not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So you deserve to be rewarded for the risk that you took, the hard work you did at the beginning. But once you get to a certain point, your employees are now doing the work and they deserve to be compensated accordingly.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. And that's we canceled, or we have had um Amazon Prime for the last, God, I couldn't even tell you how many years. And we canceled it this year.
Mm-hmm.
We're done with
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. And that's,
Yeah.
it it's small protest, but it seems to be working. I mean, if you get enough people
Mm-hmm.
of like mind and say, hey, I'm not going to give you my money anymore, it
All
starts
right.
to create ripples and saying, the DEI policies and all those things are socially conscious minded people,
Mm-hmm.
start collectively come together and say, no, I'm not giving you my money. Yeah,
Right.
you're right. The Amazon
Mm-hmm.
delivery, and they're making their trillions and or billions and soon to be trillions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
off of us making 15
Yeah.
bucks an hour.
Yeah.
And for them to think that it's okay is my biggest issue. Like you said,
Right.
at some point when you make enough money, it should be forced upon. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's tough. That's a tough thing to sell. Where
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
American dream is to be as rich as you can, right? Once you get to a point
Sure.
where everything else goes back. But how much do you need? Truly, how much
Right.
do you need to give and pledge that
Right.
some
Yeah.
of the billionaires have taken? Say,
Yeah.
when I die, my family gets X amount, and the rest goes into society. That's
Mm-hmm.
the Carnegies and the all of those people that we look back
Mm-hmm.
and thank for national parks and all of those things that
Right.
the next
That's
generation
why
goes.
That's why Teddy Roosevelt's my favorite president of all time.
Yeah,
But it brings up one of my favorite things about government is that I argue with people all the time that things have to be law and enforceable in order to really benefit society. Because, like what you just brought up with, is a good example. You boycotting Amazon. I used to say all the time, if you don't want to, if you don't like that business, don't shop there. It's like, yeah, my $200 a month is really going to teach Walmart a lesson. Only laws and enforceable laws are actually going to do any damage. And so when people say stuff like, another example would be celebrities complaining about environmental issues, and while they're still flying on their private jets, you know, what is it going to do? What good is it going to do if Leonardo DiCaprio stops flying around in a jet, when everybody else still gets to? It has to be a law that says nobody gets to. That's what government is there for, and should be there for, to keep things fair. And that brings up the whole argument between fair and equal. I believe in fairness, not I think fairness and equality are a little different. So that's why I like government so much, as far as the government is the only thing that gives us Joe Schmoes a chance. If government goes away, corporations take over. Now the people don't stand a chance. So things have to be law.
I think that there's a difference between the idea of, oh, my vote doesn't matter, and I'm all for, like that conversation drives me crazy too. Is that you get people that are so apathetic they don't vote because my vote won't matter. Well, it does, because they're
Hmm.
well, they're counted, they're
Another
tallied.
good example,
You
right?
know, it's not
Yeah.
just you. It's the in this case, what did he win with? The 70 some million votes. That's
Hmm.
what got him there. Every single
Hmm.
individual, working together
And that
gets
there's a good
done.
stat. Yeah, that's 32% of the voters. And then like 31% voted for Kamala Harris, and then 36, more than both,
Didn't go.
didn't vote.
Yeah,
36% of eligible voters didn't vote.
yeah. It drives me crazy that idea. And
Hmm.
talk about the third party idea, and that eventually it's got to come into play that you can't just play one side or the other. It's a Democrat or a Republican,
Hmm.
and I don't know where that third party comes into. The
Hmm.
sensible center, is that where it comes into? Is it
Hmm.
is it further to
That's what
the
I'm
left
pushing for.
or
Yeah.
further? I don't think we can get any further right in this country than we are right now, as
Right.
far as leadership's concerned.
Hmm.
But that part of it is, the idea that one person not spending $200 at Target, or the their $500 they spend a month at Target,
Mm-hmm.
but you put those
Mm-hmm.
together with another, 100 million people, 50
Sure.
million people, and
Sure.
it's big money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you read the articles now that you see these nationwide boycotts for periods of time, and you see the ripple that it has, where it was like 15% of the share in Target, 50% of the market share they lost after what that 1 month where they were calling for Target boycotts after they got rid of their DPI.
Mm.
And that 15% is billions of dollars. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get enough people together. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like the idea of the protest, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
sit-ins in the 60s, and it did
Yeah.
change things.
Yeah.
Somebody yelling in a building might not, but you get, half of that 51% of the people in that building yelling the same thing.
Right.
It needs great change, and that's where it's going to have to come from. The people
Right.
are going to get more. This last election in itself just drove me crazy. They
Yeah.
saw what it was, and everybody was telling them what it had been for the from 2017 to 2021, and the chaos that it brought,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea that more people in this country just were
Didn't
voting
vote.
because their eggs were too costly, which is, I mean, like I said last time, it is a huge issue. As a father and
The economy.
husband
Yeah.
of three kids, it is
Mm-hmm.
important to be able to go to the
Mm-hmm.
store and not have to spend 30% of your income on food. I mean, it is important,
Right.
but there are so many things in this country that people are seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
They messed around, and now they're finding out that
Yeah.
America first is only an ideology. It didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any sort of policy or anything to come with it. We're going to make change, not specifying what the change was. And now teachers and
Mm-hmm.
they're out of jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not able to do
Yeah.
this because the government's shutting the money down coming to them federally. And
Yeah.
they're like, what have I
Getting
done?
back to getting back to what you were saying about the third party or meeting in the middle. That's one of my favorite parts to discuss too. Is what we do to try to meet in the middle and what are some things that can be done. One of my main things is to try as hard as you can to see the other side's point of view. And in my videos, I like to put how much of a percent of a Democrat are you versus a Republican? Because it's not always just compromising on a particular issue. It's about being on one side or the other, depending on the issue. Like for me, I say generally, if you were to take that questionnaire of 100 issues, how many, for me, I agree with 65% of the Democrats, and then on 35% of Republican issues. So it just depends on the issue. Sometimes I'm on the right, sometimes I'm on the left. Where is people need to realize that it's okay to do that. Because far too often our extreme right and our extreme left, everybody's afraid to cross the divided line on an issue because then nobody will like you. Because that's one of my problems that I put in my last video is a lot of people don't like me because I always make somebody mad about something. Somebody said, Dave, I thought you were a Democrat, but yet, I'm in favor of, law enforcement and a strong military. And they're like, wait a minute, cops are bad and we shouldn't be spending so much money on the military. And I'm like, so now they're mad at me about that. But so, with my question to you, what would you say you are as far as like percentage of a Democrat, or are there any times that you agree with Republicans on some issues?
No. And me personally, do I think that there should be compromise in some scenarios? Absolutely, 100%. I realize that not everybody thinks like me, but
Right.
99.9999% of the time, I would vote the Democrats.
Is that right? Is that
Because
right?
their platform, the things they believe in, are the things
Mhm.
I believe in, and even not just Democrats. I mean, like, and it's no surprise that I'm pretty far left on most of
Mhm.
the scenario, and that's because I believe in a strong federal government. I believe it's the government's job to take care of people and to offer the money. The idea of taxes being spent on just a few things is mind-boggling to me.
Mhm.
The social safety net, the New Deal, and the everything that came after it,
Mhm.
from FDR and Truman into the '60s with Kennedy, and all the equality that came with all of that legislation in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I
Well,
don't see how that can be contemplated. That
right.
scenario we always talk about, and we've had this conversation before. Is like
Mm-hmm.
where I understand that there are people that disagree, and of course they're going
Mm-hmm.
to have compromises. That's how this country's worked.
Sure.
That not everybody, unless you have a majority filibuster proof number in the Senate, which the
Mm-hmm.
Dems did, and they had the House the control of the House. The first 2 years that Obama was in office, and you look at how big the legislation came out of there. I mean, the ACA, whatever side you are, it helps people. It helps people, and there
Mm-hmm.
was so much
Mm-hmm.
back and forth about death
Mm-hmm.
panels and Republicans just up in arms that the government's going to start taking over your health care, and it's like, no, we're just trying to give you health care. We're not
Right.
trying to tell you what to do with it. Just make it
Right.
affordable so that you can
Right.
go see a doctor if you're sick.
Right.
And I don't see how there's a conversation to be had in that scenario.
Okay.
Like I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
it how you can be on the side of saying, hey, affordable health care, whether it's funded through your employer, which is essentially them taking money out of your check,
Right.
or the government through your taxes. Either way, it's your money. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like we're just freeloading. And when it gets back to the conversation we were having a little bit earlier about sometimes people do need help.
Right.
The ACA was an incredibly important thing to come out that had never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a legislation that came out and said, hey, yes, we are going to help you. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
try to keep you alive as long as we can.
Right.
And I don't understand how that's controversial.
Well,
Why does
since you say
government need
you're
the role of government?
99% Democratic on most of the issues anyway, or all 99% almost all the issues. Let me put it this way: what would you say, if anything, that the Democrats do wrong or could do better, or brainstorm on why they lost and why Donald Trump has beaten them twice now?
Yeah,
So what could you say to the Democrats that say, "Hey, you need to pick up your game on this and this and this"?
I think they're horrible in messaging.
Hmm.
That they are absolutely horrible on this. We talk about the West Wing all the time and how we like that show.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
we
that's my
talk,
favorite too.
bring clips, and there was a part there was a clip where they were talking about soft money, and Bruno Gianelli, gives Sam a lecture on why he's so tired of the Democrats not being able to say what they're for. And that you'll have to go back and
Mm-hmm.
watch it, but it's really
I remember.
powerful. It
I
talks
remember.
about how, you know, because I'm not offended, or I'm not ashamed to have my opinions. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the Democrats are good at getting that message out that says, "Hey, we're on your side." And it's not always about um, the big issues. It's about making sense for people. And
Mm-hmm.
the hammer. And Bernie Sanders, he's a magician when it comes to this kind of messaging.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
domestic. Hey, this
Mm-hmm.
is what we should be doing. Universal pre-K, healthcare, gun control. I mean, I don't see how those things are adverse, or how
Right.
people can sit and say, no, I don't think that 3 or 4 year olds should be able to go to
Mm-hmm.
pre-K because of their financial circumstance. I think it's the government's
Right.
job to provide that service for them.
Right.
And all of these things where I'm not embarrassed to be a Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
wherever that goes. And the stigma that the Democrats are really terrible about saying they're too much of a reactionary, instead of getting out there and saying, look, this is what we've done. This is how it's helping
Mm-hmm.
you. We talked
Right.
about the Build Back Better bill that failed by the Democrats when they had control right before I was like 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that were in that bill would have helped. And that's the thing where, and that's the part of the problem with the way our government works, is that the Democrats are elected for 8 years. They do all these amazing things, and then the Republicans come in and undo them.
Mm-hmm.
When the Republicans have screwed things up, the Democrats come back in charge.
The,
They do the things.
the back and forth is driving me nuts.
I mean, dude, for how many years did we hear about destroying the ACA? How many years
Hmm.
did the Republicans try to get rid of that program?
Hmm.
Nothing to replace it. No ideas,
Right.
no fresh thought, no.
Right.
And then they thought that was the way to win. Is to say that that these programs that are helping people. Social Security right
Hmm.
now is a hot button issue.
Hmm.
Social Security is my retirement. I paid into
Hmm.
Social Security my entire adult life, and I'm expecting Social Security to be there at the end. And
Right.
it gets back to that whole idea that's what I think
Hmm.
government is for,
Right.
to take care of
Right.
its people. This
Yeah.
isn't an entitlement. You're not handing me out anything. I paid into the system.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think the Democrats do a horrible job of getting out there and saying this is how it's going to help you.
Hmm.
That's it.
Hmm.
Sidelined by too many. There's too many things out there that are needing attention, and I agree with that idea. But yeah, it's like eating an elephant, right? The best way to eat an elephant,
Hmm.
piece at a time. That
Yeah.
that concept where
Yeah.
I think that they're really bad at getting out. Like right now, they have nothing. You can't find the Democrat in front of a microphone
Right.
other
Right.
than to say,
And it,
normal talking points.
yeah, that's my issue with them too, is it just doesn't seem like they're trying. To me, my theory on that is it just seems like they're so beholden to their donors, and their donors are like, just act like you're trying, just fake it. And yeah, we're trying to help the people, but don't really pass any legislation. Now granted, that's not entirely true, but it just doesn't seem like they're trying hard enough. I mean, where are the rest of the Bernie Sanders out there raising hell? A lot
Right.
of these people are, I mean, like for example, Joe Biden. I mean, where in the hell was that dude for the past 4 years? I mean, he was rarely in front of the microphone. No fireside chats, no big powerful speeches. Now, granted, we now know why now, but you need that leadership. You need somebody with a big mouth. Me and Parker were talking about you need a good voice,
Yeah.
and
The Democrats,
in order to be a good leader, you really do got to be a good speaker. I mean,
and that's why I was so like we talked about Obama. Man, he's such a powerful orator and presence.
mhm,
And there
mhm,
was in a room that he didn't walk into where he didn't. Everybody in the room knew who was in charge.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
that's I will say,
Mhm.
do them one compliment that right now everybody that walks into a room with Donald Trump knows who's, well, either him or
Yeah.
depending on who
Yeah.
the boss
Yeah.
phone screens, or is Donald Trump just signing paper,
Yeah.
signing the papers.
Well, that's one of the Donald Trump's things he's good at is he's got a big mouth. He is a con man and a bullshit artist, and he's a good one. I mean, the guy is just bullshit his way through life and right into politics. And people just when I see people at his rallies, right on, yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's like you guys are believing that crap. Oh my God, you're just eating it up. But my point being is that you got to speak loud. Even as much as I hate an argument, when a debate turns into an argument and a shouting match or whatever, there's sometimes when you do have to speak up. You
Yeah.
do have to get charged up.
But that's,
So,
people that are so involved in Trump right now, and it's so, it's the messaging, and like you said, so full of shit. Like,
mhm,
not really anything factual coming out of there. I mean, like even
right,
talk about the money that they're saving the government by getting rid of these programs. It's not, there's no human indication.
mhm,
They don't, they're just saying they saved money. No, no, we didn't fire these people. We're not changing the lives. We can't, continue to, say that your social security check's gonna be on time because we just got rid of half the
mhm,
department. Or,
right,
your kid's education is important, so we're gonna go ahead and get rid of the education department.
mhm,
And I mean, like the idea that that's where we're at. I mean, like
yeah,
those are the ideas coming out of the world right now, or
yeah,
the government right now, is
mhm,
how can we get rid of these programs that are,
yeah. Well, that's what I say to people all the time is if you're going to bitch about something, you need to have a solution too. So a lot of times with whether it's our leaders in politics or people talking over the, dining room table, if you're going to complain about something, have a solution. What's your answer? So that's another question I always ask people is what do you think the solutions are? What are some of the things that we can do moving forward? One of the things that I'm trying to focus on is that over the past 10 years since Donald Trump's been around, everybody knows how much I hate the guy. And when he was first starting to win back in 2016, I was losing my mind. I was so pissed off. I was like, following people are, eating this guy right up, listening to everything he says and agreeing with him and liking him. I understand if you vote for the guy, but if you like the guy, I got a problem with that. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do is, in the past 10 years, I have lost a lot of friends. I've lost a lot of friends over this. And so what I'm trying to do is understand their dining room conversations. Like I think about ours in our house at our parties or whatever, and how the things we say. I'm trying to understand why they like this guy so much. I mean, I just don't get it. I understand why somebody will vote Republican because you hate the Democrats, you whatever. But to like this guy and to think he's cool and to think he's a great leader and to think he's smart, there's something wrong with these people,
Yeah.
you know.
That are
But
wearing
at
the
the
hat
same
around.
time, as I'm trying to understand it, I'm trying to understand why. How
Yeah.
we go about
The,
doing that, I don't know.
the lifelong or the decades long conundrum is, how do you make things better?
Hmm.
Like it
Yeah.
just in a scenario where it's so divided, and
Hmm.
there are some things that just should be untouchable. And in the rest of the world, for most part, those things are untouchable.
Right. Right.
Healthcare and pre-K and education and providing food and shelter. Those
Right.
things are so basic everywhere else,
Yeah.
and it's not dependent on who's in office. It's
Right.
just probably what it is. And this is
Yeah.
the only country in the world where that's the scenario,
Right.
where it it is dependent on which party
Right.
has the power.
Right. Well, let me finish up and start closing it, wrapping things up with that last question. Is what can people do over these next 3.5 years? 3.9 months, whatever we got left of this guy. What can be done? What are some solutions that you can think of that people can do, other than just laying low? A lot of people are, say, just lay low, like
Yeah,
the whole family feud concept, why one's playing, the other's strategizing. No, both need to be playing at the same time. So, what do you think there are some things people can do at the moment?
I think
Or,
in my opinion, two of the biggest things that you can do is that the 36% that we talked about earlier that didn't vote can go out vote.
mm,
Get themselves
mhm,
involved. Just see what I mean, it doesn't take rocket science. It's not rocket science to figure
mhm,
out who's what and what you believe in. And, like you said, 65%. If this guy's 65% of what you believe, go vote for him.
mhm.
Don't just sit on the sideline and can't keep piss and moan and complain about what happens when you don't vote.
Right.
If you are dependent on the social safety net and, the social security,
Mhm,
as a lot of Trump voters are,
mhm.
and they're going to they've messed around, and I think they're going to find out here in the next couple of years that that wasn't a smart decision.
Right.
That, your social security is 100% in jeopardy right now, 100%. And so
Mhm,
is your Medicare and Medicaid and everything
mhm.
else provided for you. And
Yep.
it's not a handout. It's not an entitlement. I understand that you paid for these things
Mhm.
over your career.
Right.
So that's the number one thing is that you should be informed, and
Mhm,
it doesn't take much, and get out
mhm.
and vote. That
Right.
36% of people that didn't vote in this conversation or this last election is mind-boggling to me. How you
Yeah.
cannot see what's happened in the first 4 years of
Mhm.
Donald Trump and not have an opinion
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Right.
And then the other thing is that money in politics, man, and until you can get the money
Mhm.
out, the billionaires out of financing, like I said before, dude, the $277 million Elon Musk put into that election has bought him an
Mhm.
incredible amount of
Mhm.
influence for the next four
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And those things are not for everybody. It's not
Right.
something that everybody can do, but they can get involved. It doesn't take money to
Mhm.
knock on a door for your candidate or to get out and, advocate on behalf of the issues you feel passionate about.
Mhm. Right.
But like you said, the apathy involved in the politics in the US, especially right now, is palpable.
Mhm.
Until people start realizing that it's going to affect them one way or the other, and that
Right.
your voice. I'm not sure what else can be done, to be honest
Yeah.
with
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Well, hopefully we can do it again. Do this
you.
again sometime. I
Yep.
appreciate you having a conversation with me and being my first interview. So, and thank you for the past help in the past couple weeks. I really do appreciate it. So,
Problem.
I'll probably ask you again in another couple months or something if you want to do it again.
Yep.
Got a bunch of people that want to jump on and talk politics with me too. So,
Yep.
but anyway, just want to close things out and say thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thanks for watching today's video and helping humans establish a balance with our planet. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channels. Follow us on Facebook and X, and please share our videos. Lastly, if you'd like to become a supporter and help us out financially, you can sign up for a monthly donation on our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Balance the World with Dave Dettman. But if you'd like to find out more first, please keep watching more Balance the World videos, and hopefully I can earn your support. Thank you.